Your translator is lying. The words didn't just break the silence. They shattered a million-dollar deal, froze four powerful men at a white-clothed table, and sent a shockwave through a luxury restaurant where careers were made and destroyed over a single signature. The pen hovered in the air, just inches above the contract that would change everything. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of ordinary people doing extraordinary things, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Brightly Kindness. Stories like this remind us that sometimes heroes wear aprons instead of suits. The restaurant was one of those places where chandeliers glowed like quiet stars and conversations were measured, calculated, and expensive. At the center of it all sat Daniel Laurent, a self-made millionaire CEO whose journey from a struggling scholarship student to the head of a global tech empire had been paved with relentless discipline. His gray hair and calm eyes carried years of ambition and sacrifice. Across from him sat two investors from overseas, while beside him stood his trusted translator, a polished young man named Victor, fluent in 3 languages and fluent, Daniel believed, in loyalty. The deal on the table was historic, a partnership that would expand Daniel's company into new markets and secure hundreds of jobs. He had prepared for months, studied every clause, memorized every projection. But there was one problem: he didn't speak the investor's language. He relied entirely on Victor. As the investors spoke, Victor translated smoothly, confidently. Daniel nodded, occasionally asking for clarification. Everything sounded aligned with their earlier agreements. The numbers matched. The conditions were acceptable. The tension in Daniel's chest slowly eased as the final contract was placed before him. And that was when she stepped forward. Her name was Elena, a waitress in a simple black and white uniform, hair tied neatly in a bun, invisible to most of the wealthy guests who rarely looked past her tray. She was working double shifts to support her younger brother's education. Few people knew she had once studied international business herself before life interrupted her dreams. She had been assigned to serve their table, quietly refilling glasses and clearing plates. No one noticed that she understood every word the investors were speaking. No one except her own conscience. At first she thought she had misheard. Then her heartbeat quickened. The investors weren't agreeing to the terms Daniel believed they were. They were discussing additional clauses, penalties, ownership percentages, silent control rights. Victor wasn't translating those parts. He was softening statements, skipping key conditions, and reshaping the deal entirely. Elena's hands trembled as she carried a bottle of wine to the table. She wrestled with herself. It wasn't her business. She could lose her job. These were powerful men. Who would believe a waitress over a professional translator? But then she looked at Daniel. She saw not just a millionaire CEO, but a tired man who had built everything from nothing. She noticed the faint crease between his brows, the mark of someone who had carried responsibility for thousands of employees. She imagined the factories, the workers, the families whose futures depended on this deal. And suddenly, staying silent felt heavier than speaking up. As Daniel lifted his pen, Elena leaned slightly closer under the pretense of pouring wine. Her voice was low, urgent, barely above a whisper, yet strong enough to stop time. Your translator is lying. The room stiffened. Daniel's hand froze midair. Victor's face drained of color. The investors exchanged quick glances. Daniel slowly turned his head toward her. In that moment, he had a choice: dismiss her as an overstepping waitress or listen. He chose to listen. He asked her what she meant. The investors shifted uncomfortably. Victor quickly tried to intervene, calling it a misunderstanding, a language nuance. But Daniel's instincts, the same instincts that had built his empire, told him something was wrong. Elena, gathering every ounce of courage, summarized what she had heard. She explained the hidden clauses about profit distribution, the controlling stake that would quietly shift power away from Daniel's company within 3 years. Her voice shook, but her words were clear. Daniel turned to the investors and, through a different manager who also spoke the language, requested direct clarification. The truth unraveled quickly. The investors' polished smiles faded. They had indeed inserted additional terms, assuming the translator would guide the narrative. Victor had been promised a private commission for steering the deal in their favor. It wasn't just a misunderstanding. It was betrayal. In a matter of minutes, the illusion collapsed. Daniel closed the contract folder gently, not angrily, not dramatically, just firmly. The deal was off. Victor was dismissed that very night. The restaurant buzzed with whispers long after the table had cleared. Elena expected to be fired for interfering. Instead, she was called to Daniel's private office the next morning. She walked in nervously, still wearing her modest uniform. Daniel stood by the window, sunlight outlining his silhouette. He turned toward her with something unexpected in his expression: gratitude. He told her that one signature could have cost his company its independence. Hundreds of jobs might have disappeared within years. His life's work could have slipped from his hands. And it would have happened because he trusted the wrong person. But a waitress, someone overlooked and underestimated, had chosen integrity over fear. Daniel asked about her background. When he learned she had studied international business but dropped out to support her family, something shifted inside him. He saw intelligence, courage, and loyalty, qualities he valued more than any resume.